Hi, friends. Welcome back to the IRL with Lex podcast. I'm your host, Lex, and this is the place where we talk about all things fitness, relationships, and lifestyle with a real and raw perspective. Yes, I've been gone for 2 weeks, so I'm sorry. The past 2 weeks have, I said a few months ago that those months were some of the most challenging I'd ever been through. I don't know. These past 2 weeks have been quite emotionally challenging. I've lost a lot the past 2 weeks. And so that's why today's episode, I wanted to be very honest. And I'm always honest, but honest in the sense that I'm going to be vulnerable and share not what I have lost, but how I've been dealing with that and why it is okay to need time as well to process those things. Little summary of the past 2 weeks. I turned 21 last Thursday, so like a week ago tomorrow. And honestly, I didn't do anything. I spent my birthday by myself and didn't really do anything. But honestly, that was okay because I needed some normalcy in my life after these past 2 weeks. Also, my Instagram was hacked, and I've been trying everything to get it back, which was far more emotionally exhausting than I thought it would be. And since I have lost so much, not even talking about the Instagram, the past 2 weeks, it's been something that I've been trying to deal with and process. And so I didn't want to come on here and make a podcast episode if I didn't feel as though I was mentally in the right space, because I didn't want to give any ill advice or just not be a version of myself that I want to be. Because I know that sometimes I do speak out of emotion, and I didn't want to come on here and make an episode and put it out there if I was not saying that I need to be positive all the time. I feel as though I'm a very positive person, but more so I just didn't want to give advice out of hurt. And I know the past 2 weeks I've felt very hurt and very discouraged, and I just don't want to show up as that kind of person. So, without further ado, let's get real. Today's episode essentially is going to be about letting go of things, as well as giving context to people so that they want you. And so I know that those seem kind of odd to combine, but whenever you overshare or you feel as though you have to overshare or give people context as to who you are and why you are the way that you are, it creates a thing where you think that people aren't going to want you if they don't know why you are who you are. And this is something that I've dealt with a lot in my life, especially like given like my childhood and all that. I always feel as though I have to give people context or give them my background so that they will want me. Because if they only know me at a baseline, it's in my brain that they won't want me because they're like, dang, like this girl's messed up. And so if they think that, then I feel as though if I give them context, they will not judge me, and they will essentially be like, well, yeah, like I can understand why she is that way now, and they'll actually want me if they have the context. Not true. I used to be really, really bad at trauma, like dumping to people, especially when I first met them, especially like before my ex, whenever I had started trying to date again. And I would always like trauma dump on these men. And I don't think it's trauma dumping because I'm so emotionally removed from these things in my life. Like I've dealt with them and processed them. So now to me, it's like I'm just telling a story that I'm not emotionally connected to. And I would tell them all these things. They're like the very first date. And I knew like that I had made a mistake. I always felt bad after because believe it or not, you shouldn't be giving people vulnerability. You do not have to give everybody that you meet that level of vulnerability, because the thing about vulnerability is it is there so that you can connect to people, but you don't need to connect to everyone. And something that I used to do was emotionally invest myself into everybody that I met, and it like obviously left me drained all the time because I would give everybody this part of myself. Everybody does not deserve your context. Everybody does not deserve to know why you are the way that you are, because everybody's not going to love you. And that's okay. Everybody doesn't need to love you. Everybody that you meet does not need to want you. And so that's the biggest thing I feel, is because I dealt with a lot of abandonment in my life. And so for me, I thought that if I gave people context and I told them everything about my past, that they would want me. And if I didn't, then they wouldn't want me. Honey, let me tell you, if somebody's meant to be in your life, they're going to want you regardless of knowing the background or not. And the thing is, you want people to ask for this context. You want people that you're getting to know or that want to know you and want you. More often than not, they will ask for your context and ask to know how you were raised. And whenever you get to the point where you realize that and you stop telling everybody everything about yourself, because that is a privilege. It is a privilege to know you. You do not need to give people context so that they want you. You give them that because they want you and because they want to know you. To know you is to love you. Okay? I don't want you to sit here and think that knowing you and the more somebody knows you, the less they want you. No, ma'am, we don't do that here. Because we know, and you know, and I know that to know you is to love you. Because real love is knowledge of somebody and accepting their flaws despite that. And still wanting to love them and know them despite having knowledge of what you aren't the best at. And that's okay. Something that I know that I'm bad at is I emotionally detach very quickly when I feel as though I'm going to be hurt. And this is something that I really shamed myself for a very long time, because somebody a few weeks ago told me, whenever the Instagram thing happened, they told me that I needed to let go and I needed to dissociate from that. And I was like, I can't do that. I've always been very good about doing it with people because people have always been the thing to leave me. But with the things that I create and the things I work on, I'm not able to yet, I guess, emotionally detach from those things because I created them, and those are the things that I pour myself into because I know that usually the reward is as equal as the work, more often than not. And so I'm not good at emotionally detaching myself from those things. And so in trying to navigate emotionally detaching from outcomes, I realized the art of letting things go. But going back to people, we're going to just continue this topic real quick before I go into letting things go. If people don't respect the things that you care about, they don't respect you. People can respect the idea of you or love the idea of you and not actually love you. Because if you love somebody, you love what they're passionate about, or you're at least interested and you don't shame them for those things. I know I always use Annabelle as an example, but also I have a friend here where I live now. Her name's Maeve, and whenever my Instagram got hacked, she was doing what she could to try and help me. The person that told me that I needed to emotionally detach, that person did not love me because they did not care about what I was passionate about. Somebody trying to help you and being as heartbroken as you are when bad things happen, that's somebody that loves you. Because even in the Bible it says that the people that love you will rejoice when you rejoice and grieve when you grieve. Because that is what loving somebody is. It's sharing their emotions and respecting them and taking them into account and trying to be there for them. And so if somebody does not want you, do not beg for them to want you. Because even if you beg for them to want you and then they end up wanting you, quote unquote, they don't actually want you, honey. They don't. I hate to break it to you, but whatever is meant to be in your life, you will not have to beg for it. And so that's why the main topic of today is going to be about letting things go and how to detach yourself from the result of things, because you need to realize that your value does not come from the success and the things that you work on. It doesn't come, and your value doesn't come from the outcome, okay? One of the biggest things that I want you to realize is achieving things ultimately is out of your control. And I realized this whenever my Instagram was hacked, because I tried literally everything that I could, that I know that I could, to get my Instagram back. It's been almost 2 weeks now, and I don't know how to explain to you guys how emotionally devastating that was, because also, I don't think I'm going to cry today. I've cried so much over the past 2 weeks. I don't think I even have it in me to cry. So I think that'll be good for today. But whenever I started that Instagram, I was at one of the lowest points of my life. I was alone in college. I pretty much lost everybody. I lost my grandmother. I lost my boyfriend of 2 years. I didn't really have friends due to circumstances, and so I felt so alone. And I started that Instagram so that I could find a community of people to not feel so alone. And so that Instagram means so much to me because it was the first place I started. And I gained so much confidence, not because of the numbers, but because of the connections and community that I built. And so whenever I lost that, I literally went through all the stages of grief. And I'm not kidding, because I don't think I'm going to cry, okay? I'm not going to cry. But on that Instagram, I met my best friend. I met Annabelle. Without that Instagram, I would not know her. And that's something that I'm forever grateful for, because I never have had that. I've never had somebody that wanted me despite my flaws. Or somebody, yesterday, or no, like 2 days ago was our 1-year anniversary of our friendship, which was so nice. But I've never had that. I've never had somebody to want me like that. And I got that through my Instagram. I got to meet all of you that I've met in person because of that Instagram. I have been so immensely blessed because of that account. And I know that that was given to me from the Lord. And of course, I put the work in, and I worked so hard for that account and for the success of it. But I had to realize that if that was not for me anymore, and if the Lord maybe He wanted me to no longer have that account, then I had to be okay with that. I had to let that go, and I had to be okay with not having that source anymore and that platform anymore, even though I was devastated. I remember, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry, you guys. But for the first few days, like after my account was hacked, I would try to go to the gym and I would have to leave because I couldn't stop crying, because every time I would be in there, I would just like think about all the pictures like that I've taken in this gym for my Instagram, and like I don't have that anymore. And I have made a lot of friends at my gym, and like so they'll ask me like how I'm doing on social media and everything. And I had a friend come up to me and like ask me, he's a photographer, and I just started sobbing because that account was like my baby. That Instagram account was literally my child. I have been there for it since the beginning, and it was hard to let that go. It was hard to know that my worth didn't come from that account, but also that it wasn't mine anymore. The person that hacked it blocked me, and so I can't see anything about that account. I can't even like look at my highlights anymore. And so like I have no clue like what's going on over there. And so that was hard. That was really hard to let go of. And I know that sounds like such a first world problem, and it is. I take full accountability for knowing that I'm so blessed for that to be the thing that's devastating me. But I have so many of my friends on that account, and I don't have their phone numbers. And so the only way I have contact with them is through Instagram. And so like now I can't even contact those people because I don't know how to get them back. I don't know their Instagram handles and all that stuff, which is on me. Like I should have known better, and I know that. But I'm at a place now where I've gone through all the stages of grief for that, and I've grieved that account. I've grieved the beauty and all the things that account blessed me with, and I don't have anymore. And I'm at a place now where I can sit back and acknowledge how beautiful that account was while it lasted, and that I might not get that account back. And through losing it, I learned that even if I try so hard, things ultimately are not in my control, because I can't control whether I get that back or not. Even if I do deserve that account, even if that account was mine, I cannot control whether I get it back now or not. And for me, that honestly has been something very, very crucial for me to realize, that just because you try and just because you're putting the effort in does not mean that something is meant for you, or it doesn't mean that you deserve that thing. Because the thing about detaching from outcomes emotionally is that you realize that your efforts do not always equal the outcome. And so I want to talk about just letting go of these things, letting go of people, letting go of goals, letting go of outcomes. Because whenever you start to let go of these things and realize that your worth and your value at a baseline are what make these things succeed, I believe it's much easier to be okay with results, whether they are what you wanted or not. And so the first thing is letting go of people. Letting go of people is extremely hard, and I think that people think it's difficult because you're losing somebody. But more often than not, it's not really about that. It's about you're losing a living body or source that made you feel wanted or that reflected the best qualities of yourself. Because more often than not, we are actually looking for our best qualities in other people. Usually the things that we value in other people are just a reflection of ourselves. And that's why it's so important to fall in love with yourself and to fall in love with who you are and your value and be okay in your own company, because usually you're just looking for that in other people. And so whenever you let people go, it's usually that you are going to miss feeling loved and feeling wanted in the way that you love and want others. And that's okay. That's understandable. It is hard to go from having somebody in your presence almost 24/7, or at least knowing that you have somebody that you can call if you need to, or having that person to share your big moments with. And like whenever you don't have that, whenever you accomplish something and you don't have that anymore, it's hard. It's so hard to sit there and be like, dang, like I don't really have anybody to tell this to. Like when my Instagram account was hacked, I was like, I don't really have anybody to just go and tell this to. Like I told my sister and Annabelle and Maeve, and honestly, that is something that has been so crucial for me to realize over the past few weeks, is that platonic relationships are so important. I think that a lot of us think romantic relationships are the only thing that we should be investing in, but they're not. Because platonic is so much more important in my opinion. Because having romantic relationships can be dirtied extremely fast. Not dirtied in like a nasty sense, but just it's very easy for them to go south quickly. Especially with the vulnerability, emotionally and physically. But with platonic friendships and relationships, it's so lovely. And I also know that I think I'm better at loving platonically than I am romantically. I've never been a very physically intimate person. I just am not, due to being sexually assaulted twice. And one of those was from a platonic friend. I don't think I've ever talked about this on here, so trigger warning. But my childhood best friend did sexually assault me, and it was a girl. And so that's why I kind of had trouble making friends the rest of my life, because it's very hard for me to trust people. And so then like when I had my first boyfriend and he did the same as well, which no hate to either of them. I wish them nothing but the best, and I'm not angry at them at all, and I'm not upset at all. But it is something that's hard to process now. Like, those things, of course, are going to come up in my future relationships, and it's not because I'm getting triggered or because I'm still emotionally attached and traumatized by those things, but it's because it's my context. I act that way because of my context. Context. I don't like being physically intimate, or I don't like being touched because of my context. People that I meet for the first time do not deserve to know that. People, I would tell men, like on the first date, and this was like when I was in college, that I had been sexually assaulted. They don't deserve to know that. It's not about the fact that like, oh my gosh, like I feel bad for these people that they know this about me now, or I'm trauma dumping on them. No, you need to reframe it that people don't deserve to know everything about you. Not everybody deserves to know you. So don't give people your like the deepest secrets or like the hardest things you've ever been through. Don't give that to everybody. Everybody does not deserve to know you. And so once I like learned that and I realized that, people will show their true colors much faster. Let me tell you. So men will show who they are as human beings, and I mean even women. if you don't give them context. Because once you give them that context, they are going to try and change their actions to essentially get you. So if I told a man I was sexually assaulted, they would usually hold off on, like, touching me or anything, or like trying to kiss me, which I've only kissed 3 people. But before, like, they would do that so that they could get you, trying to test the waters. Whenever you don't give people context, they're going to do what they wanted to in the first place. And usually that shows, and you'll see how much they respect you much sooner rather than later, even with platonic friendships. Do not tell people how you've been hurt in the past off the get-go. Don't tell people that. Because once you do that, it's much easier to manipulate you. And they don't deserve to know. Like, if you've been friends for a few months, of course, like, 100%. Annabelle and I were friends, like, from the moment we met each other. But we also shared with each other eventually everything we'd been through. And that's what made us so close, was because that level of vulnerability. But it's also because we wanted to know that about each other. And that she deserved to know that about me, and I deserved to know that about her. Because we wanted to share those things. But whenever you give people too much information about you, it creates an opportunity for them to manipulate you. And you don't deserve to be manipulated. You don't deserve people in your life who only want you because they know that you're easy to manipulate, or people that take everything you've told them and use it against you. Because that's happened to me several times. Because people think that once I give them that context, that I'm like messed up or broken or fragile, and I'm not fragile. Like, I'm emotional, but I'm very strong, so just don't give people context that they don't deserve. People don't deserve to know you, okay? They earn that. They earn that, they earn that ability and that opportunity to know you. That's something that's earned. That is not something that is required. It's a privilege to know you. And so then letting go of things and jobs and outcomes, I think a lot of us believe that whenever you let go, it means that you're giving up. You're not giving up. Whenever you let go, it is showing to yourself that you believe in yourself enough to know that if something is for you, that it will happen. Whenever you are afraid of letting go and you are holding on to something so strongly, it shows how insecure you are in that thing, because you believe that the only way it can succeed is if you are the one in control of it. Honey, that's just not how life works. It really isn't. So whenever you are so desperate for something, it's just from insecurity, because you're afraid that you cannot achieve that thing if you are not the one in control of it. But whenever you let go of things and you show yourself that you believe that you have the ability and you are confident in yourself to achieve something, it's going to become much easier, because not only does it open up a little window for you to change your perspective on your goal and these things, but it also shows how comfortable you are with yourself, and it allows you to take your value out of the outcome. Okay, so whenever you lose, maybe it's material items, maybe it's a job opportunity, instead of thinking that you're giving up on these things, just view it as you're shifting your perspective. You, instead of being in the driver's seat, you are going to be in the passenger seat, and you have the GPS. Okay, you're not the one driving, but you are still there in the vehicle, and you're observing, and you're seeing how the driver is handling the vehicle now. And once you change your perspective and you are able to detach yourself emotionally from your goals and your things that you want, you're going to see that usually the outcome is good. And even if it isn't, you're no longer placing your value and your worth in the outcome. So if it doesn't happen, you're not as distraught, okay? So just like even for fitness goals, once you put all of your worth into this goal, let's say you want to reach a certain weight on the scale. Whenever you do this, all of your actions are dictated by this goal, and you will do anything that you can to achieve it. That's not healthy. Like, I think a lot of people think, yeah, like if I do everything that I can to achieve this, then I will achieve it. Like nothing is getting in my way. That's not healthy. Because whenever you have a balance as well, whenever these things don't go well, you still have all these other outlets to bring you joy. And whenever you put all your eggs in one basket, you don't have an opportunity to feel that joy because you have limited yourself. And so let's just use, for example, my Instagram. Letting go of that has shown me that that was not the only reason I was worthy. That was not the only reason people wanted me. And also, I was afraid, I mean, it is my business, so I was afraid that a lot of brands like Gymshark and PE Science might start like to be like, we don't want to work with you anymore, but that hasn't happened. And so it's been something so good for me to just see and step back and realize that that was not why people wanted me. And the people that don't or didn't recognize that that account isn't active anymore, that doesn't mean they don't care about me. That just means they're not aware, and that's okay. Everybody doesn't have to be aware of you all the time, and everybody doesn't have to care about you all the time. And honestly, whenever you realize that everybody doesn't have to care, everybody's not focused on you, it creates a way easier environment to move and a much easier environment to pursue your goals in without feeling judged. And if you learn to let go of things that you want, it'll be much easier for you to be okay if you don't achieve them, but also be so much more thankful when you do. Because that's the thing too, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, if you let go of the things that you want, then they will come to you. That's just not true. Like that's nowhere does it say that that's true. Like usually, yes, if you detach from things, it seems as though they come more naturally because you're not freaking hyper fixated on it. Like obviously, whenever you hyper fixate on it, you notice every single thing about it. But whenever you're not, your attention is less of that thing, and so when it comes to when it comes to fruition, you're like, dang, like it really did happen. It's not because you stopped thinking about it. It's just that it seemed easier because you were not hyper-fixated on it. And so in saying all of that, you don't have to give people context to want you. And if you let go of things, it doesn't mean you're giving up. It just shows that you're confident in your abilities and you're confident in the outcome, that your worth is not dictated by the outcome. And so if you have any questions, you can always leave them in the question box, but we're going to do the best and worst part of the week. Best part of the week. Honestly, seeing my family this past weekend. I got to go down and see them for my birthday, and that was nice. It was just something I needed. I feel I needed to see people like that. I don't know. I just needed that, so that was nice. Worst part of my week, y'all, there have been so many. I'm not even going to share them because I don't have to give you that context. And my goal for this next week is I want to do a vlog for YouTube. I also am like rearranging my entire apartment right now and just trying to get that figured out. So hopefully I will have a vlog for YouTube. I'm not saying I will because I have been... people have sent me very angry messages saying like how I keep promising that I'll upload on YouTube, and so like now I feel a little bad that I haven't shown up in that way, so I do apologize. But I do want you guys to know that you can always reach out to me. I did make a new Instagram. It's the Buff Unicorn. If you look it up, you should be able to find it. The person that hacked me actually changed my name, so it's no longer the Buff Unicorn. It is still Lex Lifts, but I can't see it, so I don't know if she changed the name again. But I hope you know how valuable you are, and that also if people leave you, that does not mean that you're not worthy of attention or affection or love. It just shows that those people don't deserve to know you. Those people that leave you don't deserve to be in your life in the first place, because baddies don't beg. Baddies do not beg for somebody to want them, and that is one thing that I have highly learned, is that I will never, ever, ever beg for somebody to be in my life again, because that's a level of vulnerability, and also, like, my worth is so damaged in that process for begging for somebody that doesn't want me. No, ma'am, never again. So I hope you know, You don't need to beg for something. If it's meant for you, you'll never have to beg. And with all that being said, I love you so much, and I hope you have an amazing week. Stay buff and bubbly.